Hey, Patrick Findaro here, co-founder at Vetted Biz and Visa Franchise. We get a lot of questions about different pizza franchises. Today, I want to go through Little Caesars Pizza. Those that are interested in opening up a franchise, I'll go through the cost, fees, as well as information on other financial figures for those that might be interested in opening up a Little Caesars franchise, particularly in the United States. Those that are not familiar with Little Caesars, they principally sell pizza, but they also sell chicken wings and other items. Little Caesars was founded in Michigan, as was other major pizza brands like Domino's in 1959. It started franchising only 3 years later. As of the end of 2020, there were 4,000 plus locations throughout the United States, and 3,600 were franchise owned, and about 600 were company-owned locations that Little Caesars, the franchisor, owns and operates. The franchise fee is on the low end for a food and beverage concept at just $20,000. And the total cost, if you want to open up a Little Caesars franchise, is going to range from $359,000 all the way up to $1.6 million. Let me just start with this. If you're going to invest $1.6 million to open up a pizza franchise, you better be sure that you're going to be making profit above $250,000, $500,000 after a couple years operation. I'm not convinced that for 99% plus of locations that you could open up a Little Caesars franchise, that you could be making over $300,000 a year. So be mindful. If you're investing closer to $359,000, it can make sense. If you're investing $1.6 million as disclosed in the Little Caesars franchise 2020 FDD, that's way too high. I don't care if it's Little Caesars or any other pizza restaurant that you're opening. I don't see how you're going to recoup your capital in less than 5 years if you're investing $1.6 million to open up a pizza franchise. So the big differences is in this variance that we see from 300K to all the way up to 1.6 million are the leasehold improvements, which they say range anywhere from $50,000 to $1 million to basically improve the space, as well as also the fixtures, equipment, signage that ranges from roughly $200,000 to $400,000 for a Little Caesars franchise. So the total Little Caesars franchise costs can range quite a lot, from $359,000 to $1.6 million. You're also going to have to pay up to 7% of gross sales for local advertising. And they mandate that your opening advertising is $12,000 to $20,000, which is a bit on the high end. Now comparing the Little Caesar franchise costs to other big brands. Papa John's, just $130,000 to $840,000 to open up a Papa John's. Domino's, my personal favorite, and all disclosure, I've invested a good amount of capital in the Domino's stock, as I love how they don't work with third-party apps. They own the entire delivery process, and they only recruit franchisees that the person was already working within the Domino's, and an average franchisee owns 5+ locations. I could go on and on about Domino's, but I definitely prefer Domino's over Little Caesars if you're opening up a pizza franchise in the United States. But the investment range for Little Caesars is on the high end. Now let's go through how the company and franchise locations performed in 2020 in terms of openings and closures. There was a net change for the franchise locations of 23. So many open, but more closed in 2020. As well as for the company-owned stores, they actually fared better, where there was a net change of 21 new Little Caesar locations that are open and operating for the 2020. Most of those Little Caesar openings were actually happening abroad, and there was actually a decrease for Little Caesar locations in the US. They lost 2 locations in terms of the total unit count, where Starbucks increased 150 locations, increased basically another 150, Chipotle another 146, And then McDonald's lost 2 locations in the 2020 year. Now, again, comparing to a couple of those pizza franchise concepts I mentioned, Little Caesar in the United States opened 75 locations in 2020. They closed 98, so a net change of 23. It was only the international locations that kept them closer to basically a net neutral count from 2020 to 2019 in terms of locations. Papa John's, not so good. Opened 50 locations, closed 48. My personal favorite, Domino's, opened 225 locations and closed 10 locations in the United States. I was also quite surprised when our analysts went through the latest franchise disclosure document for Little Caesars, and we found that they chose not to disclose the financials in the item 19. So the store performance and different financial information from franchisees. For a franchise system that's been around for over 50 years, this is almost unheard of. So I can imagine that individual owners of Little Caesar franchises did not fare so well in 2020. To the best of my knowledge, it isn't a publicly traded company, so it's harder to get the financial information as it is for other franchises and big brands like Domino's Pizza. You can watch a video on that, as well as Chipotle and then Starbucks.